My name is Mara Ellison. I'm 30 years old. And the day my father decided to throw me out of his house, he turned it into a celebration. Not a quiet conversation. Not a private argument. Not even a cold, awkward goodbye. A celebration. I remember turning into the driveway that afternoon, expecting nothing more than a tense, uncomfortable final pickup. One last box. One last look at the place I had spent years trying to hold together. Instead, I drove straight into a party. A full-blown, loud, unapologetic, humiliating spectacle. The first thing I saw was the banner. It stretched across the garage, secured tightly at each corner, impossible to miss. White vinyl, bold red letters. Goodbye, freeloader. Don't come back. For a moment, I thought it had to be a joke. Not a funny one, just a bad one. The kind people regret halfway through. But then I heard the laughter. Country music blasted from outdoor speakers. The smell of grilled meat hung thick in the air. Neighbors stood in clusters with paper plates, red cups in their hands, watching like they were part of something festive. Something justified. And then someone saw me. Well, look who showed up, a man shouted from the patio, his voice thick with alcohol and approval from the crowd. Heads turned. Eyes locked onto me. About time you came to collect your junk, another voice added. Laughter followed. Not uncomfortable laughter. Not hesitant. Confident laughter. Like everyone already knew the script, and I was just late to my own humiliation. I stayed in the car for a second longer than I should have. Just breathing. Trying to understand how this had become real. Then I opened the door and stepped out. The music didn't stop. The laughter didn't quiet. If anything, it grew louder. 30 years old and still living at Daddy's house, someone yelled. Must be nice not to work. Hey, Mara, a woman near the grill called out sweetly, you finally gonna try adulthood now? More laughter. Then something hit the side of my car. Soft, but warm. It slid down slowly, leaving a greasy streak behind. A hot dog. Someone raised their drink and shouted, there's your last free meal. The crowd erupted. Even the kids were pointing. Smiling. Watching. That was the moment something shifted inside me, not breaking, not cracking, just settling. Because the strangest part wasn't the cruelty. It was this. They believed it. Every word. Every joke. Every accusation. This wasn't exaggeration to them. This was truth. A truth they had repeated so often, so confidently, that it had become real. I didn't argue. Didn't defend myself. Didn't raise my voice. I simply walked past them. Up the driveway. Through the front door. Inside, the house was quiet. Almost eerily so. Like the inside of a theater after everyone has stepped out to watch the show happening outside. My footsteps echoed lightly against the tile floor. This place, this house, had held years of invisible effort. Nights spent fixing problems no one even knew existed. Days spent absorbing tension so it wouldn't spill over onto everyone else. And now, it was just empty. I walked to the laundry room. My last box was sitting exactly where I had left it. On top of it, written in thick black marker, starter kit. I stared at it for a moment before opening it. Inside, a pack of ramen noodles. A half-used roll of trash bags. Dryer sheets. A printed list of cheap apartment complexes in the area. For a second, I almost laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it was so deliberate. So carefully cruel. This wasn't anger. This was performance. A script written over years of quiet resentment, finally acted out in full daylight. I closed the box and picked it up. Carried it back through the house. Back outside. The noise hit me again immediately. Laughter. Music. Voices. My uncle was shouting something from the patio, waving a beer bottle like he was delivering a sermon. Should be ashamed, he slurred. Family carries you long enough, you gotta stand on your own. More cheers. My younger sister stood near the grill, phone in hand, recording. Of course she was. She always knew where attention lived and how to stand close enough to catch it. My grandmother sat beneath an umbrella, her lips pressed thin, her expression wrapped in something she would later call concern. And at the center of it all, my father, Daniel Ellison, wearing a black apron that read, "Boss of the Grill." Like the universe had personally stamped approval on everything he was doing. He saw me, spread his arms wide. "Look who finally decided to show up," he called out. The crowd turned again. Waiting. Watching. I placed the box in my trunk. Closed it gently. Then I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. And I took a photo. The banner. The crowd. Their smiles. My father standing at the center of it all. He saw me do it. Smirked. "What?" he said loudly. "You collecting evidence for your therapist?" A ripple of laughter moved through the crowd. I met his eyes. Spoke for the first time that day. "Not exactly," I said calmly. A pause. "Then what?" he asked. I slipped my phone back into my pocket. "For later." And then I got into my car. And drove away. The silence that followed was louder than anything that had happened in that driveway. No music. No laughter. No voices telling me who I was. Just the sound of the road. And my own thoughts, clearer than they had been in years. For 3 days, no one called. Not my father. Not my sister. Not my uncle. Because they thought they had one. That's how systems like mine work. They confuse silence with defeat. Absence with surrender. They think once you leave, you disappear. They forget something important. Some people don't leave empty. They leave with everything. On the 4th day, the first crack appeared. A missed permit. Small problem. Fixable. Normally, I would have caught it before it mattered. This time, I didn't. On the 5th day, a client rejected a submission. Because the documentation wasn't correct. Another small issue. Another thing I would have handled quietly. On the 6th day, the project management software locked them out. Payment failure. The backup card, mine, was no longer there. That's when the calls started. The first one came from my father. I watched it ring. Let it go to voicemail. "Hey, Mara," his voice said, still casual, still confident. "There's some mix-up with one of the accounts. Just give me a call when you get a chance." A mix-up. I almost smiled. Then my uncle called. Twice. No message. Then my sister texted. "Dad says stop being dramatic and log in." I didn't respond. The next morning, the tone changed. "Mara, sweetheart," my father's voice said in a new voicemail, softer now, carefully controlled. "There's an issue with the utilities tied to the workshop. I think maybe your card is still connected somehow. We just need to straighten it out." Straighten it out. By Thursday, the messages carried something new. Not anger. Not control. Fear. Because the truth was finally surfacing. Not all at once. But piece by piece. Every system I had quietly maintained. Every payment I had covered. Every problem I had prevented. Was now visible. And for the first time in years. They had to face it without me. And that was only the beginning. Silence is dangerous in families like mine. Not peaceful silence. Not healing silence. The kind of silence that comes when someone who used to hold everything together stops. At first, nobody notices. Because everything still looks the same. Lights turn on. Phones ring. Work orders sit where they're supposed to. But underneath, something essential is missing. By the end of the first week, the cracks weren't cracks anymore. They were fractures. And fractures don't stay quiet for long. The second call from my father came early Thursday morning. 7:08 a.m. That alone told me something was wrong. He wasn't a morning caller unless money was involved. I watched the screen light up, his name flashing across it like it had a right to my attention. I let it ring. It stopped. Then started again. I declined it. A voicemail followed immediately. "Mara, pick up the phone." No greeting this time. No softness. "I know you're seeing this. The vendor account is locked, the software isn't working, and Dean says something's wrong with the fuel card. I need you to call me back. Now. Need. Not please. Not are you okay. Just need. I set the phone down and went back to my laptop. I had work. Real work. Clients who paid me, respected me, trusted me. People who didn't need to humiliate me to feel in control. An hour later, my sister called. I hesitated for half a second. Then I answered. What? She snapped immediately. No hello. No hesitation. Just irritation. What do you need, Kelsey? I asked calmly. She exhaled sharply like I was the problem. Dad's freaking out. The system is down, nobody can access anything, and he says you're the only one who knows how to fix it. I'm not, I said. Silence. Then a scoff. Can you not do this right now? Do what? This, attitude. Just log in and fix it. It's not that big of a deal. I leaned back in my chair, stared out the window for a moment. It is a big deal, I said quietly. You just don't understand why yet. She laughed. Actually laughed. Oh my God, Mara. You're acting like the company depends on you. I didn't answer right away. Because that sentence, that exact sentence, was the whole problem. You'll see, I said. And then I hung up. By Friday, they saw. The first real damage came from a client. One of the bigger ones. A commercial install scheduled for the following week. Deadlines were tight. Permits were already delayed once. Normally, I would have been on top of it days earlier, checking documents, confirming compliance, smoothing communication. Instead, the submission sat incomplete, uncorrected, unsent. The client emailed my father directly, CC'd 3 other people. Subject line: final notice before reassignment. That's when panic replaced irritation. My uncle called me that afternoon. For the first time in years. He sounded sober. Mara, he said, voice low, cautious. Hey, listen, about the other day. I didn't respond. I didn't mean any of that, he rushed on. You know how I get when I drink. It was just jokes. People were having fun. Fun. And listen, he continued, we've got a situation here. That big job on Friday? If we lose that, it's gonna hurt everyone. You understand that, right? Everyone. There it was. That word again. The favorite word of people who only remember you exist when they need something. I understand, I said. So you'll help? He asked quickly, relief already creeping into his voice. No, I said. Silence. What? He said, like he'd misheard. I'm not helping. His tone changed instantly. Sharpened. You're really gonna do this? Over a joke? I smiled slightly, even though he couldn't see it. It wasn't a joke, I said. It was a belief. You're being dramatic. Maybe, I said. But I'm also done. He hung up on me. That night, my sister texted again. This time, it wasn't casual. It was urgent. I need $600. No greeting. No explanation. Just the number. I stared at the message for a long moment. Then typed back. Why? Her reply came quickly. My rent. Dad said he'd help, but now he's saying cash flow is messed up and I'm short. I'll pay you back. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it was predictable. Cash flow is messed up. That was the phrase he used when things were quietly falling apart. When money wasn't where it was supposed to be. When systems started breaking. Do you know why he can't help you? I asked. There was a pause before she responded. No. He just said things are tight. I leaned forward, resting my elbows on the desk. And for the first time, I decided to show her a piece of the truth. I opened one of my files. Scrolled. Cropped a screenshot. 3 months of transactions. Her name. My father's company. Utility payments. Transfers. Dates. Amounts. I sent it. Underneath, I typed. Since you're interested in who's contributing. She didn't reply. Not for 2 hours. Then. What is this? A sample, I said. Another long pause. This isn't real. It is. You're lying. I'm not. Silence again. Longer this time. heavier. And then, nothing. That was the moment the story started breaking. Not publicly, not loudly, but inside the one person who had benefited from it without ever questioning it. Saturday morning, my phone rang 6 times before noon. All from my father. The first voicemail was controlled. "Mara, we need to talk. There's clearly been some kind of misunderstanding." The second was sharper. "You turned things off that shouldn't have been touched. That's not your decision to make." The third, unsteady. "The workshop power is at risk, the insurance didn't go through, and Dean says one of the trucks might get pulled. Call me." By the fourth, the anger was gone. "Please call me back." By the sixth, there was nothing left but panic. "Mara, I'm asking as your father. We need to fix this." Fix. That word again. Like everything was just a temporary problem. A glitch. A mistake. Something I would quietly step in and repair like I always had. But this time, I didn't. Because this time, they weren't dealing with a broken system. They were dealing with the absence of the person who used to hold it together. And that's when I realized something important. For years, I had thought I was part of that family. Part of that business. Part of that system. But I wasn't. I was the system. And now, it was collapsing. Mara finally agreed to meet her father. Not at home. A diner. Public. Neutral. Her father arrived tense. Her uncle sat beside him, unusually quiet. Mara placed a thick folder on the table. "Everything you've been calling freeloading," she said calmly, "is in there." He opened it. His confidence lasted seconds. Payments. Receipts. Transfers. Messages. Over $110,000. Plus years of unpaid labor. He flipped pages faster, voice rising. "This is exaggerated." "It's documented," she replied. He tried to shift it. "Families help each other." Mara didn't hesitate. "When I lived in your house, you called me a freeloader. When you lived off me, it became family." Silence. Her uncle leaned back, pale. Her father lowered his voice. "Don't do this here." "You mean with witnesses," she said. That hit harder than the numbers. Finally, he asked, "What do you want?" "Nothing," she said. "I'm done." No apology came. Only one question. "What can you turn back on?" That was the moment she knew. He hadn't understood anything. She stood up. Left him with the folder, and a list of professionals he could hire. Then she walked out. Without Mara, everything unraveled. The business lost clients. Payments failed. Suppliers demanded cash. The workshop nearly shut down. At home, the tension spread. With no one to absorb it. They turned on each other. Her sister was the first to crack. She showed up at Mara's apartment weeks later, tired, shaken. "I knew you were helping," she admitted quietly. "I just didn't know how much." Then she said the truth that explained everything. "When you were there, he aimed everything at you. Now you're gone, it's everyone." Mara didn't argue. She already knew. Her father went the opposite direction. He sent an email offering her a temporary role to fix things. Payment later. Trust repair. Mara replied with 4 lines. "I am not returning. I am not working for free. Do not contact me for business help again. Respect boundaries." A month later, the house went up for sale. Not by choice. By necessity. The business shrank. Her uncle drifted. Her grandmother moved in with relatives. Her father rented a smaller place and tried to rebuild, but without Mara, nothing held. Meanwhile, Mara's life grew. New clients. Stable income. Her own place. Peace. Real peace. Months later, her father called again. Different tone. Quieter. He said he found one of her mother's recipe cards. Asked if she wanted it. She said yes. Before hanging up, he asked, "Was I really that cruel?" Mara didn't argue. Didn't explain. Just said, "You hung it over the garage." Silence. The card arrived days later. She framed it. People asked her if she regretted not helping one last time. She didn't. Because the truth was simple. She was never the freeloader. She was the reason everything worked. And the moment she left, everything showed its real foundation.